SQL injection, insecure pattern in HAPME Bank. And this is it. In fact, there's a couple more, because there's a reflected SQL injection. So that will be a different pattern, where it doesn't come from the outside, it comes from the database. So I found that this is a great way to view, and there's a lot of other stuff, like you can save each individual assessments, you can create multiple assessments from the findings. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do here. So this is the first one that I want to show. Right? Now, the second one, which for me is, it's one of those things that I think the story, it just shows that sometimes the product teams don't really understand what the guys on the field want. So when I was explaining how Ounce works, is Ounce basically grabs the source code, creates an intermediate representation of the source code, processes it, and gives you the results. Right? So my question is that, what happens to the intermediate representation that you just did? Ah, we dumped that. So I was like, okay, that's actually not good, because I want that. So is there any way I could have access to it? Oh yeah, there's this undocumented setting that you could use, but you don't want that. You don't want that. Don't worry about it. So I was like, okay, just which one? Cool. So when I went on my detour, right, when I was like here on this other track, development track, I actually really explored this, because having the capability, and I will show you that in action when I show the Spring MVC stuff, having the capability to have an object-oriented, right, model of your application, it's not just useful, it's actually critical for what you want to do. And again, what I'm really happy is that Ounce also released this open source. So actually what we also have today is a standard, or at least a standardized, right, way to represent source code. So I already start playing with ideas to convert other things into this, because I have visualizers, I have analyzers, I can script this. So I want to be able to scan Klingon, right? Whatever. I want to be able to scan anything that can throw to me, because all I need is a little parser, at least to have visibility, right? And of course, there's a big difference between having visibility and having the ability to follow tainted data. But at the moment, a lot of times, it's like you have no visibility, right? Or you have regexes, and that's it. So let me show you how this works. So the way this works is, so here's all the classes. So I'm going to pick a class called Data Factory. So this is every single function that's called from the Data Factory. So no problem. You get this with 2 lines of reflection in .NET or Java. So that's not that hard. But this starts to be more interesting. So this is all the calls that are made from every function on those classes. So this becomes more interesting. And what's interesting about this is that a lot of the times you can already do assessments just by looking at that, because that is already telling you the attack surface. So if you're looking at, for example, a .NET application or a Java file, a Java project, and you start to look at like when they have components, let's say they might have user controls in .NET, or they might have servlets, or might have objects, just looking at what type of APIs you need is really critical. For the ones that have a bit of a thing for sandboxing, right, this is one of the ways I feel I'm going to solve the sandboxing problem, but really be able to model the whole thing. So again, this is still a bit of a problem, because okay, I know that all the calls that are basically called from here. So here goes the question that usually takes you to either Eclipse or Visual Studio. It's like, okay, so who calls this guy? So I got this execute command, SQL command. So I go, okay, it's called by the SQL server, and it's in here, but who calls this? Because I found something which is juicy. So I've implemented, right, because now I have an object model, exactly that. So what I'm going to show you here, let me just pick the same guy again, is the 2 views that, for me, are absolutely critical when I'm doing this analysis. So where's my data factory? Okay, there you go. Okay, so this is what I want to show you, okay? So first of all, the straightforward, this guy calls this one, who calls that one, who calls all of this. Interesting, you can go down. It gets more interesting when you higher up on the application. But this one is the one that I really like. This is the reverse call. This is the is call by tree. So what this means is that, right, this guy is called by all of this. And this guy is called by that one. And this one is called by this one, is called by that, and then etc. So that view is critical, because that's a lot of the times what you want to know. You find, you're navigating, maybe you did the black box, maybe you go on there and you hit one of those methods like, whoa, 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 what's going on here? Why this guy's using this? And then you want to have a full picture immediately of where it's used, who calls it, where is it consumed. And then I take this a step further, because I use this to drive my rules. So what I use is I now use, so take this example. So the problem with this is that this is call flow. So if you actually map all this, you'll find that you have stupid amount of possible traces, because this is just a stupid call. I know that within this function, he's going to call that guy. So if there's an if false here, call, he will still have the mapping that you're calling that guy. So, but I have access to an engine that does data flow analysis, right? Great. I just tell that engine, right, to do that analysis, right? And to be honest, there's no reason why, you guys can't use this, right, to fire your rules. Other vendors or other open source tools can use this, because now the question is, can you now trace if there is a data path between here and there? Because that's the vulnerability. But this allows me to identify the attack surface. This allows me to, for every function that exists here, have a very clear picture of what is actually going on. So for me, having access to object-oriented, version of the source code is absolutely invaluable. And what I'm going to show you next is how you actually use this in practice. So how I actually use this to implement real-world scripts. So just the last couple of things that is already also published, which, it's, again, one of those little things and one of those little tools that, for me, saves my life every day. In fact, I even use this now, when I'm not, okay, hand me back, there you go. So as my source code here. So this text search is literally just, you can tell what file you want. So CS, so I can load everything. And then I can just load all the files. So, and then you can just regex the thing. So you can go import, right? Or let's say the login. So if I want to find the login, you can find it through here. And then that tells you on the source code where it is. And it's one of those little things, but that makes such a big difference, especially because one of the, let's say, assets that I feel I have now, or one of the capabilities, which I never really had, was I now am starting to be in positions where I'm actually confident that I've made a good analysis. And this is the big elephant in the room, right? Because I've done analysis when you get given like 500,000 lines of code, and I always use technology, and the client goes, so did you look at everything? Is everything okay? And you're like, well, look, I found all this stuff, right? It's cool because I got all these vulnerabilities, but I didn't have time to go everything. So I always have this problem that I was never really confident that I covered the law. So, but I don't trust the engine. So my world is, I have my CIR dumps here, which is the object model. I have all my traces, like with the volume turned up here. I have my regexes here, and I have my black box. That's my world. So let's say I find a problem that in one of them, right? Okay, I identified, and I go to my traces, and there's two instances of that. So I will go to my regexes and search everywhere, and only expect to find those two instances. And when all these world matches up, I'm confident